Well, this is definitely a video I did not envision doing, but some people are just so ignorant and blind to the fact about Eli Manning's performances over the last couple of years. So when I started doing Giants commentaries, it was like 2017, probably like a year and a half ago or so. And since then, Eli Manning has obviously not been, the best quarterback for our New York Giants. And a lot of people want to talk about how he doesn't have an offensive line, he hasn't had a running game, doesn't have this, doesn't have that, right tackle, whatever. I want to prove to people that the Giants' struggles now, they aren't all Eli's fault. I admit the defense is not good. I get it. But in 2011, when Eli was in his prime and the Giants won their second Super Bowl with Eli, he put the team on his back. I give that man so much credit for what he did in 2011. I just want to prove to people that A, he's not the same guy he once was, and B, that there's an obvious decline in his play, right? I feel like some people feel that if Eli had a good right tackle that there would be no issues at all and the Giants would once again be a good team. I really do not find that true at all, and because of all that and all the comments I get saying like I don't know anything because, I say I want to cut Eli Manning and all that kind of stuff and that we should move on. People like that kind of just made me do this whole video. I didn't want to come on here and bash Eli Manning, but some people are just ignorant and blind to the fact of what's actually going on here. So therefore, I put all these numbers together, did my research, and now I'm going to present it because it's actually pretty interesting and stuff I didn't pick up on, from my general knowledge. So let's get into it real quick. Let's start with the offensive line issues. So let's go back to 2011, right? The Giants go 9-7, win the Super Bowl. We all know the story here. But what I didn't realize was how bad this offensive line really was. So based off of PFF's ratings, the Giants' offensive line that year was ranked 31st in the league. So they were 32nd in pass blocking. Will Beatty, their left tackle at the time, was out for the season, so David Deal had to move to left tackle. It was not good at all. There are going to be videos at the end of this showing the difference between Eli Manning in the pocket then and now. It's so much different. Eli Manning was never mobile. We all know that. But at least he had a good pocket awareness back then. He made some really nice plays, when the pressure was getting to him. So 2011, 31st ranked out of 32, obviously. Still won the Super Bowl on the back of Eli Manning. This year in 2018, their offensive line was ranked 21st out of 32, but they go 5-11. So something doesn't add up there. How does the Giants' offensive line go from 31st in the league, they go 9-7, then it goes to 5-11 when they are ranked 21st in the league? That doesn't make much sense to me at all. But wait, there's more. Hold on. We're going to get into the running game. We're going to get into the what else is there? The defense, of course, because people want to blame the defense as well. So we're going to get into everything. So this is just tip of the iceberg so far. So here are the sack numbers from this year for offenses, right? The Giants are ranked 23rd. Eli Manning was sacked 47 times in 2018. But here's the thing. He only took 28 total sacks in 2011 with an offensive line ranked 10 spots worse. Nothing makes sense there. Nothing. It's not like Eli Manning used to be mobile and now he isn't. I mean, we all know that Eli was not mobile back then as well. But as I said, his awareness in the pocket and his ability to stand in there and make throws was so much better than we see now. I mean, if anyone even approaches Eli in the backfield, he just falls on his ass. We know that. But the old Eli Manning used to stand in there and make throws. I mean, it was just such a difference. And people are not realizing that kind of stuff, which is annoying, but there's a huge difference here. I mean, this is a 19-sack difference with a worse offensive line, right? I mean, I don't understand how someone can have an offensive line ranked worse back then, basically have, 20 less sacks, and then has a better offensive line this year, and then takes 47 total sacks. Now, most of you are probably saying, well, that was 2011. That was, a much different time in the NFL, and I agree with that. There's a lot more passing nowadays. But here's the funny thing. Eli Manning had more pass attempts in 2011 than he did in 2018, so that argument's invalid as well. So as you see here, in 2011, he had 589 attempts. This year in 2018, had 576 attempts. This doesn't make sense to me, right? So Eli Manning, 13 more pass attempts than he did in 2018, right? But somehow takes 19 more sacks than he did on less attempts. It just does not make sense. It does not add up. How does the man have a worse offensive line, but, or a better offensive line, and then takes more sacks? It should be the complete opposite, right? I mean, if Eli Manning had the kind of line in 2011 that he had this year, The Giants would have won more than 9 games, I'll tell you that. I mean, you can't do better than win a Super Bowl, but Eli Manning put up some incredible numbers that year, and I think he would have been even better. I mean, 2011's offensive line was such a joke compared to this one. People want to shit on this offensive line all the time and say how, it's not good and whatnot. I'll admit, it's not great. But Nate Solder had a really good second half. Left guard, Will Hernandez, he was a rookie, but played some good football for us this year as well. We had guys rotating at center. The centers weren't that bad, though. It really wasn't an issue. People want to praise Jamon Brown like he's the next Zach Martin, but he's really not that good either. But people want to treat him like he's God because of how terrible the Giants' right guards have been. And then right tackle, we started with Eric Flowers, didn't work, went to Chad Wheeler, wasn't really that much of an improvement either, but it wasn't terrible, right? It wasn't like Chad Wheeler was the reason the Giants won 5 games this year, but it contributed to it, so I got to acknowledge that as well. Even with the 31st ranked offensive line, Eli was sacked only 4.5% on his throws in 2011. With the 21st ranked offensive line, he now gets sacked on 7.5% of his throws. So the man is getting sacked 3% more with a better offensive line. Another thing that does not add up. I mean, sack percentage is, it's something you can rely on. I mean, it tells the truth here. 4.5% in 2011, bad offensive line, now gets sacked 7.5%, better offensive line to rank 10 spots higher, right? Nothing makes sense there at all. Okay, well, let's look at defense here. People probably think 2011's defense was so much better, right? Not really. I mean, 2018's defense was ranked 23rd in the league, right? Gave up 412 points. And in 2011, they were ranked 25th in the league, only 2 spots worse. They gave up 400 points. The Giants' defense this year gave up 12 more points than they did in 2011, right? That's not that big of a difference. That's definitely not big enough to go from 9 wins to 5 wins, right? Something there doesn't add up as well. I understand the Giants' defense in both years, they weren't that good. The only difference was in 2011, they did have a pass rush. I'll give them that. But from a total defense perspective, it wasn't much better, right? The Giants' secondary this season wasn't terrible, right? I think the Giants' secondary this season was better than the one we saw in 2011, right? I mean, Janoris Jenkins and Landon Collins, those guys were better than Corey Webster and whoever we had, Antrel Roll, even though I love Antrel Roll. He's one of my favorite Giants. But, stuff like that. I mean, it wasn't like the secondaries were that much different. Their linebackers were never that good. I mean, this linebacking core was better than the one in 2011. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we had, like, Chase Blackburn off the street, Michael Boley, people like that. I mean, the defensive line was the big difference, but from a total defense perspective, only 2 spots worse, yet the Giants go on to lose 4 less games. So, once again, something there does not add up as well. All right, well, you want to complain about the running game? I mean, the Giants had Bradshaw and Jacobs in 2011. They must have been so much better, right? Well, no, that's wrong again. 2011, they had the worst rushing attack in the league. 32 out of 32. You can see it right there. 2018, they were ranked 24th in the league, right? The Giants went out this year, spent a 2nd overall pick on a guy that I think right now is the best running back in football. I do shit on the pick because, yes, I think Eli Manning is definitely not capable of winning football games anymore, at least on his own like he did in 2011. I mean, I think he needs a very good supporting cast. We can't offer that here on the Giants. This roster overall is not good enough to support Eli Manning right now. So if you want to blame the rushing, you can't do it. If you want to blame the defense, you can, but it's barely a difference. If you want to blame the offensive line, that doesn't make sense either because they were ranked 10 spots worse. What I'm trying to get through here is Eli Manning was single-handedly winning the Giants games in 2011. Obviously, Victor Cruz, Hakeem Nicks had terrific seasons. Even Jake Ballard came out of nowhere and made plays for us. But Eli Manning was doing this on his own, basically. He has a good enough supporting cast here in 2018. He had it in 2016. I know they made the playoffs. I don't want to talk about 2017. But this year, the Giants were relatively healthy. They went all in this year. They traded for a linebacker, Alec Ogletree, signed a left tackle for the most expensive left tackle in the league at the time. Go out and draft a left guard. Take a running back 2nd overall. They did everything they can for Eli Manning. It only adds up to 5 wins. I understand the Giants lost a lot of close games this year, but enough is enough. 8 wins in 2 years is unacceptable. Things need to change. So here we go to recap the whole thing, right? So the offensive line ranks 31st overall compared to 21st overall this year. Sacks allowed ranked 23rd in 2018, 7th in 2011. That one jumps out at you right there, right? How does the man have a worse offensive line but ranks 7th in sacks allowed? and then goes to 23rd this year with a better offensive line. That just shows you that Eli Manning was staying in the pocket longer, he was more nimble, and he was making plays on his feet. Not saying he was rushing for 500 yards in the season, but he was able to stay on his feet, wasn't afraid, he wasn't just falling down like he does now. He was a more capable and a better quarterback overall back then. Rushing rank, 32nd compared to 24th this year. Pass attempts, had more pass attempts in 2011, which would definitely, help the argument for people that say Eli Manning still has it, right? If he had more pass attempts, it just opens more opportunities for him to be sacked and whatnot. But no, he was getting sacked less in 2011. Their defensive rank, it was 25th compared to 23rd. 2011 had a better defensive line. I think that's about it. Their secondaries were even. I think the linebackers are better this year. Result, 9-7 and a Super Bowl win. And in 2018's result, of course, 5-11, last in the division. People want to bring up the stat all the time about the division and, we scored the most points in the division. I mean, who gives a damn? Like, really, who cares? If you can't win games, I don't care how many points you're scoring in the division. The Giants' defense wasn't the whole reason that the team won 5 games. I mean, they had 23rd ranked defense, starting guys like B.W. Webb and Curtis Riley for crying out loud. I mean, it wasn't that bad. A lot of this has to deal with management. I'm not a huge Gettleman fan. You guys should know that by now. I think a lot of it goes on management as well. If you have guys like that starting in your secondary, that's a big issue. And let's compare Eli's personal stats here. So everyone wants to rave about his completion percentage. I got to comment every video like, oh, did you see Eli's completion percentage, bro? It was so much better than years past. Yeah. How many catches did the running backs have? 91 for Saquon, right? 92, whatever it was. That'll help your completion percentage. Let's calm down there, right? 4,900 yards in 2011 and 4,300 this year. Look at the touchdown difference. 8 touchdown difference. Yes, Eli Manning had more interceptions in 2011, but there was so much more upside, so many more yards, so many more touchdowns, and more points being put up on the board, right? His QBR was 13 points higher in 2011 as well. That's a big thing. Yards per game, 308 compared to 268.7. And of course, their record is much different. I can't even get into that again. But that was the thing I was saying with Nick Foles, and a lot of people freaked out about the whole Nick Foles thing, but Nick Foles takes chances. That's why I like him, right? He's not afraid to make throws. Eli Manning now plays way too conservative for my liking. He doesn't even try to stand in the pocket. If a guy's in the backfield, as I said before, he falls right down. He doesn't try to fight through it like he used to. He's not going to run away from anybody, but he used to be able to maneuver in the pocket very well. I think he was one of the best players, at doing that during the time. Obviously, the league has changed, but the guy's 37, 38 years old. He's getting worse. I don't know why we all can't agree on that. I mean, if these stats aren't telling you this, then, I don't understand what you're looking at, but I'm trying here. I'm trying to get through to people. So let's compare the NFC East now, right? So we have points for in 2018, 369 total points for the Giants offense. That was this year. In 2011, they had 394 points for. Much better. The defense that everyone wants to complain about, everyone was like, oh, the defense gave up 412 points. That's the main issue. That's the main reason we sucked this year. Okay, they gave up 400 in 2011. The thing was, in 2011, their offense was more confident than it was now. And it's not like the Giants' offense in 2011 had, more weapons. I think the Giants right now have better weapons than they did in 2011. I don't even think you can argue that. Saquon Barkley compared to Bradshaw and Jacobs, as much as I love them, it's not even a comparison. Odell Beckham to Victor Cruz, I mean, yeah, Victor Cruz had, 1,500 receiving yards that year, but on a talent standpoint, Odell Beckham's a much better player. Sterling Shepard, Hakeem Nicks, yeah, I'll give that one to Nicks any day. The tight end position goes with this Giants team by a mile. Evan Engram and Red Ellison over who was it, Bear Pasco and Jake Ballard. I'll give our current tight ends, much better, a much better chance there. So, once again, you can't really blame the defense entirely for why the Giants suck now. I think a lot of it has to do with their offense underperforming. The Giants right now have so many weapons. I mean, weapons that you would dream of having if you're most teams in the NFL. What kind of other team has an Odell Beckham, Saquon Barkley, Evan Engram, Sterling Shepard? I mean, not many. And the Giants have these guys, and they can't even score more points than they did in 2011 when the league was much different, right? I mean, I understand the Giants' division was, better this year than it was in 2011, but, it wasn't that much better. I mean, the highest win total was 10 by the Cowboys, and they easily could have had 9 if Cole Beasley's knee went out of bounds in the last game of the season against the Giants. So I can't really put much into that, but, I don't think it has much of a difference with the divisions. I think it was just the offense underperforming. There's a much bigger differential in points for than points against if you compare the 2 years. So a shout out to all these people for inspiring me to make this video. It was something I didn't want to do. I don't want to bash my own quarterback and a guy who's, delivered many great moments in my life and all that kind of stuff. But you kind of have to when people are talking like this. I mean, once again, we're going to blame the offensive line. All right, he was sacked 45 times this year, as you see on the bottom. This one says 41, so no one really had their numbers straight, but you know what they mean. And no one really wants to look into it. It's like people are just looking at the numbers and saying, oh, he was sacked, X amount of times. It's definitely the offensive line's fault, not realizing that the guy had a worse offensive line in 2011 and took way less sacks. I mean, can we at least do research before? I mean, I didn't think it'd be that drastic when I looked at these numbers, but I did all the research and I was like, damn, there is a huge difference from the production of Eli Manning from 2011 to now. I mean, I didn't want to think that he fell off that much, but it was pretty easy to tell. I was able to tell in 2016 that Eli Manning was kind of starting to lose it. The Giants had a really good defense that year. Their offense could not click at all. I mean, if you watched the Giants' 11-5 season a couple of years ago, it was on the back of the defense. I mean, their offense was not scoring much at all. They hadn't scored 30 points that whole year, I believe. They were in that drought, all that kind of stuff. And, there was so much going wrong with that offense, and it just did not make sense because they had the playmakers. They had Shepard back then. They had Odell. They even had Cruz that year, and they were still not putting up points. And, you want to say how much of that is Eli's fault. I mean, a decent amount of it. I mean, Eric Flowers was so bad that year, so I want to blame him as well. Even the whole offensive line that year, they had Bobby Hart. I don't think that was the Marshall Newhouse days, but you know what I mean. Players along, John Jerry was there as well. Players of that standard. So it wasn't really that good, but Eli was doing it with way worse players in 2011. People want to say that, oh, we need the kind of offensive line we did in 2011. Well, no, I don't think you want that kind of offensive line because they obviously sucked. But Eli was doing enough individually to make plays and stay in the pocket and wait for things to develop. So I'll show you guys videos later of the difference between Eli Manning and now. But first, I want to say a message real quick that I wrote up about Eli Manning because, as I said, when I started this channel, I realized that Eli Manning was no longer going to be a good quarterback for this team. But people want to make it seem like I hate the guy and whatnot. But here's a little heartfelt message that I wrote for him, and I'm just going to read that real quick. Before I get called an Eli hater or a secret Cowboy fan, I'd like to acknowledge that Eli Manning is responsible for some of the greatest moments of my life. I have the utmost respect for him due to his performances and way he's handled himself on and off the field. Overall, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame and the Giants' Ring of Honor. On the other hand, when it comes to winning games in the NFL, you can't make emotional decisions. Even Dave Gettleman says that, by the way. I was mad as anyone when Eli was benched for Geno Smith in 2017, but these things happen. I watch every snap of this team, and it's evident that Eli is not the same player that he used to be, and if these statistics don't persuade you, then nothing else will. There have been many arguments amongst Giant fans about this team's struggles, and while I admit the defense is an issue, there has to be a fair amount of blame on the quarterback as well. So, as I said, I'm not out here to bash Eli Manning. He is my favorite athlete. Always will be probably until another one comes around. But, I've watched this guy play pretty much every snap of his career. I lived through the good and the bad, and this guy I feel like has done more good than bad for us Giant fans. So I have a lot of respect for him, but I realize that it's 2018. He's not the same guy he used to be, and I think a lot of us need to open our eyes and see that as well. So with that being said, let's evaluate Eli Manning's pocket awareness in 2011. So here's a play against Dallas. I think it was the Week 17 game. Hangs in there, steps up, boom. Nice fire to Hakeem Nicks. Hits him right in the numbers. Perfect throw, all that good stuff. Down inside the 5. Pay attention to the way he steps up in the pocket and goes through his reads. Something we don't see a lot in 2018 Eli. So there you go. He's looking, steps up. The line's kind of breaking down a little bit. And we don't see Eli step up a lot. He gets very paranoid in the pocket nowadays. Here's another play. I think this might have been the Victor Cruz throw. I'm trying to remember. Stands in the pocket, has a guy hanging on his feet, makes a nice throw to Cruz right over the middle, hits him in stride. Perfect play. This is something we don't see with Eli right now. His eyes are up the whole time, something we don't see anymore. So let's watch here. The Cowboys defense, they're going to send 5, it looks like. The left tackle gets beat there, right? Hanging on Eli's leg. Eli gets out of it. Still able to make a great throw to Victor Cruz over the middle. That's a great quarterback right there. That's a great throw. Eyes are up the whole time. If you look at this replay, I mean, now he's always looking over his shoulder. He's looking down at the offensive line. The Eli in his prime was always looking up, and that's something I admired him for. Here's a play. This might have been the long Victor Cruz play. This was amazing, right? So Eli, at this moment, Eli would fall to the ground in 2018, but watch what the prime version of Eli does. He spins out of it, loads up, throws a one-on-one jump ball to Victor Cruz. It comes down with it. A huge play for the Giants in that game where they needed to win this game. Spin move. I mean, as I said, he's not the most mobile quarterback, but his pocket awareness and his pocket elusiveness was really great back then. This throw was just perfect, right on the money to Manningham to basically seal that wild card weekend. But watch the way he scans the field in this one, right? He'll look to his right at first, right? They're going to show the replay here. Looks to his right, little pump fake there, get the safety going, and then right over the middle, Manningham, perfect placement. Awesome throw by Eli Manning right there. Couldn't have put it any better. Another example of the line breaking down, especially at right tackle, but Eli keeps his head up, steps up, and fires a bullet to Hakeem Nicks. So this was the Nicks touchdown. I'm sure many of you remember this play. Right over the middle, bang, gets away. This play was awesome. I mean, if you guys remember watching this, I was going crazy when this happened. Love Hakeem Nicks. So watch Eli here, right? He knows the line's breaking down, steps up, knows he has some room to throw, fires a perfect strike right to Hakeem Nicks over the middle, takes all the way. Only a three-man rush, but watch the way he stands tall and delivers another bullet right in stride to Hakeem Nicks. So here we go. Play action, no one's there, but he's standing tall, throws a bullet right to Nicks, bounces off, takes another one to the house. I believe Hakeem Nicks had the second most receiving yards in a playoff series that year. Not paranoid at all. Waits for his receiver to be open. Watch here closer. Stands tall. Waits for his guy to get open in the zone, and boom, fires it right over the middle. Perfect throw. Another example of the pocket collapsing, but Eli stays and delivers the ball right where it needs to be. I forget what play this was, honestly. Okay, the Manningham, yeah. This was a great game, but this might have been my favorite play of Eli during that 2011 run, so this is one that I'm sure some of us forgot about, but such an amazing play. Watch how he gets out of the way here. Eludes two rushers and throws a perfect pass on the run to Victor Cruz, that was. So watch here. There's an interior rush. Number 91 gets through, whoever the hell that is, steps up, gets by another guy, throws a perfect ball that only Cruz can catch. An awesome job by Eli Manning right there. So those are some examples of the old Eli, the prime Eli Manning. I mean, he's definitely way different back then than the one we see now. And if Eli was still making plays like that, I don't think this team would be that bad. I think we would have made the playoffs this year if he could have made throws like that. But unfortunately, that's not really what we see anymore. The guy needs a clean pocket. People say, well, yeah, Eli could still make the throws if he has a clean pocket. Well, you're not going to have a clean pocket every time. It's a contact sport. You know, we got to realize that. They're going to send blitzes if they know our quarterbacks are rattled and stuff like that. But Eli Manning in 2011 was something special, and that's something that we need to acknowledge. So I think that wraps up this video. I hope you guys found it informational. I'm sure some of you are going to unsubscribe and say some pretty rude shit in the comments, but I'm prepared for it. I mean, most of these are just facts. I mean, not a lot of it was my opinion. The Pro Football Focus ratings and just, pure stats that are from, footballreference.com, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to come at me, I mean, you might as well come at the stats as well, because, a lot of this was not opinion-based and was just straight up from, previous history. So as I've said, I mean, I wish Eli Manning this year would just retire and, make this thing a whole lot easier, because I really don't think they're going to win with him at quarterback next year, but we'll see what happens. I definitely am much more, I feel that they should bring in a free agent quarterback. I've said Nick Foles' name, and that drives people crazy. Teddy Bridgewater, someone like that. Of course, we have the draft with Haskins, Murray. Drew Lock's name is being thrown around, Daniel Jones, I mean, people like them as well. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I just cannot do another year of Eli Manning. I could just... He's 38. He's not that player that we just watched. He's much different now. We need a guy that at least has a little mobility, or at least pocket awareness, and I feel like Eli Manning has lost most of that, probably from Eric Flowers and that PTSD that he's established because of it. So I blame a lot of it on the offensive line, the way they've I mean, let's be honest. This team failed Eli from 2013 to 2015. I mean, I brought that up. I mean, Eli had 3 prime years in him, and the Giants wasted it because of their terrible offensive line. I mean, 2011 was a magical year. Victor Cruz was great that year, and their defense was making plays as well, especially in the turnover category, and they had a lot of sacks. But when it came down to just their regular offensive line, it wasn't good enough, obviously. So, the Giants, they just need to move on. They need to turn the page on this whole thing. I mean, I think this is 2 years overdue. But look, if I'm being real with you guys, I would not be shocked if I see Eli back at quarterback next year. Not what I want to see, but it seems like a lot of people, or at least majority of the Giants fan base, wants Eli to start next year with Dwayne Haskins behind him. I'm not sure if I want to see that, and I'm sure it'll cause a lot of controversy because every bad throw Eli makes, it's going to be like, oh, we should put Dwayne Haskins in. It's going to cause a lot of unnecessary drama. So, we'll see what happens. But everyone has their own preference. This has been going on for 25 minutes, so I'll cut it there. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you found this informational, as I said, and I'll talk to you next time.